Hi guys, thank you so much for coming and listening to me today. There's quite a few things I want to chat about today, but just to prep you guys for our various talks that we're doing, today is going to be on my research, which is incredibly exciting. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. And then tomorrow we're going to be going into the mushroom boom and what's happening in the mushroom industry in Southern Africa. So I hope you guys are excited. Who likes mushrooms? Maybe we just start off with that question. Who likes mushrooms? Yeah? Who's harvested mushrooms? Anyone? Okay, so this is amazing because it shows me that you guys are interested in mushrooms and you're only just starting your journey. So hopefully I can tickle a little bit of an interest there, get you guys excited. So yeah, without further ado, I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to kick off. There we go. So just before we start, a bit about our company. I started Ether Apothecary about 7 years ago with my business partner. Over the last 7 years, we've had the most incredible growth. We are now the largest medicinal mushroom supplier in South Africa with over 300 stores, and we manufacture as well. So most of the mushroom products you'll see around, we make, which is really exciting. So we know a little bit about mushrooms. I won't claim to know that I know everything, but yeah, I love mushrooms. I hope you guys do too. So this talk is going to cover a couple different topics. We're going to start off with a bit of the history and worldwide use of fungi. Then we're going to go into uncovering fungal use across Southern Africa, which is really exciting. There's a bit of a secret, some rock art. I hope I've got enough time for that. And then we're going to go into some questions and answers on the side, because apparently we're not doing it up on the stage anymore. So to start us off, I want to paint a bit of a picture for you guys. I want to take us right back to the beginning of this planet. Before there was anything, before there were animals, before there were plants up on land, the world was just a rock. It had some oceans, it had some water, but there wasn't much going on. But underneath the surface, life was brewing at thermal vents. And one of those life forms was this right over here, this funky looking organism, which we now have a name for. We call it mycelium, or hyphal threads. Now, about 2.4 billion years ago, these hyphal threads, these mycelium, started to awaken and come onto the landscape. We know this because of a fossilized remains that was discovered off of the coast of the Northern Cape in the Ongeluk Formation. Now, these fungi, 2.4 billion years ago, started to make their way onto land before anything else. And when they got onto land, they started to pop mark themselves onto rock, and they started to break down the calcium in the rock, forming our soils that we have today. So without fungi and bacteria, we would not have what we have here. The Cannabis Expo would not happen if it wasn't for fungi, which is really cool. So can I get a hoo-ha? Woo! Yeah! So if we progress a little bit more to about 350 million years, we're going really big stretches here. 350 million years, fungi rule the roost. They are everywhere. They have littered the landscape. Plants are emerging very slowly. They're not very big. Fungi are the dominant organisms. One such fungus is one called Prototaxites, which would grow up to about 6 meters in height. Huge organisms that would form our soils and our microbiome that we have today. So they were the main organisms on this planet. If we progress a little bit more to about 115 million years, we start to see something really interesting happen. We start to see fungi get smaller and plants get larger. And fungi start to find their ecological niches. And with that, I'm actually going to come to this side. So with that, we start to see something really cool. We start to see that fungi figure out how to reproduce really effectively, and they hold the shape of reproduction up until the modern era. So we see a stipe with a cap, like we would see here. This organism was found in the Crato Formation in Brazil. It's 115 million years old, which means that it's really ancient. And it's kept its shape for 115 million years, which shows incredible intelligence, some really heightened intelligence, which I don't think we fully understand. So we progress a little bit more. Human beings come onto the planet. And, you know, how about you? Do you guys like South Africa? I love South Africa. I think this is an amazing place. It's a really wonderful place. Now, I like this place because it's the cradle of humankind. There's a lot of other reasons, but what shows is that life, or modern life, started here. And as we progress up along the migratory patterns of early hunter-gatherers, early Homo sapiens, all the way up into Europe, across Europe into Asia, some went down into Australasia, some across the Bering Strait into the North Americas, all along this migratory route, we see some really interesting rock art start to pop up. Now, this rock art depicts some fungal organisms, there's not much. There's maybe 5 to 15 different certified rock arts of fungal organisms across this planet. I want you guys to hold that in your mind because it's very interesting. But we start to see mushrooms and humans interacting. We don't quite know what this means, if they were eating mushrooms or if they just saw mushrooms, but perhaps they were interacting more than we ever thought. So this is just a hypothesis. About 300,000 years ago, our first actual true human fungal interaction comes about 19,000 years ago. This jawbone right over here has been deemed the jawbone of the Red Lady of Almiron. And this is in Spain. This jawbone was found in a cave in Spain. And what's really interesting about this jawbone, not just its age, what's interesting about it is that within this jaw, within the dental enamel, we see 2 spore isotopes of fungi within the dental enamel. The one being a Boletus mushroom, a really amazing, big, delicious, edible mushroom, really tasty. If you guys have ever been to Hog's Back or Cape Town, you can find them all over. That one's cool. But the other one is really interesting. The other one is a red fungus with these little white specks on top. It's called Amanita muscaria. You guys ever heard of Amanita? You guys seen it? Now, Amanita is a psychoactive mushroom. Now, what on earth would this 19,000-year-old woman be doing eating psychoactive mushrooms such a long time ago? So this is our first actual proven evidence of human and fungal interaction 19,000 years ago, which shows that our history is interwoven with fungi far earlier than we ever thought. We progress a little bit more. We start to see more cave paintings in Sicily and Algeria. We see the Mayans and the Toltecs and the Olmecs display mushrooms and worship them. One of their supreme deities is a deity called Tionanacatl, which means the flesh of the gods. And these deities very strangely resemble fungi. It's very, very peculiar. You guys make of that what you will. We start to see more and more mushroom depictions coming up. In Greek, we've got Persephone and Demeter at the Elysian Mysteries, which is an amazing initiation rite that every single forefather of democracy, Plato, Hippocrates, Dioscorides, every single mathematician or philosopher had to undergo this initiation ceremony. And we know now, because of research, that this initiation ceremony involved fungi, particularly a fungus called ergo, which, if you remember back correctly to chemistry class, if anyone took chemistry, is what Albert Hofmann synthesized LSD from. So our forefathers of democracy were consuming LSD-based beverages. We've got Iranian cultures, Siberian cultures. Believe it or not, we've also even got Christian iconography all around the world depicting fungi, which I won't go too much into depth because I know that does upset a few people, but we'll just, we'll progress. There's medicinal use. There is use the world over, but no one knows about it, which is so peculiar. Now, our first official use of medicinal mushrooms comes from this handsome gentleman over here. Beautiful man. Can I get a wolf whistle? Anyone can wolf whistle? Can't. Yeah, thank you guys. So this man over here is called Otzi. Now, what's interesting about Otzi is that he is a Bronze Age man that was running for his life through the Otzal Alps in Italy. And this man was running for his life because someone was chasing him with a bow and arrow. And it sucks for Otzi, but he fell into a crevice, into a crater. It really sucks for Otzi, but it's amazing for us because his body was perfectly preserved for about 5,000 years. Now, Otzi, when he died, carried on him a couple different things. The one that interests me is this fungus over here, which is called the chaga mushroom, Inonotus obliquus, which is really amazing for starting fires. So this man could carry fire around with him. But more interesting is this mushroom over here. This is a birch polypore. Now, Otzi, what scientists have discovered is that Otzi, in his gut, in his gastrointestinal tract, Otzi had a parasitic tapeworm. And I want you guys to take a guess as to what kills parasitic tapeworm. Exactly, birch polypore. So Otzi, 5,000 years ago, was using mushrooms for medicine. And we've lost this history. We've just, it's fallen off the face of the earth, and it baffles me. So hopefully through our interest in fungi and bringing it to the forefront, people can get back to this ancient knowledge and reclaim this wonderful medicine. So Other than that, we've got people in the East. We've got mythologies all around the East, like the Buddha, the happy Buddha. He would often carry mushrooms around with him in exchange for food. He would give people reishi mushrooms. We've got Huan Yin. We've got Peng Zhu. What I'm trying to show you guys is that mushrooms have been used for countless millennia all around this planet. But something has baffled me. Nowhere in our records, no books, no manuscripts, no journals, no scientific papers, not one showcases indigenous use of fungi in Southern Africa. Now, I thought to myself about 5 years ago, was this because we don't have medicinal use? Is it because our people don't use mushrooms? Or is it because no one's taken the time to look? And you guys will be pleasantly surprised to hear that no one's taken the time to look. So I set out for about 5 years, and I've traveled all around this country. I've spoken to hundreds of Sangomas and Nyangas. In the mountains of Lesotho, I've had to travel 80 kilometers by foot because there's no roads that go up into the mountains there. I've had to go to Limpopo and to the deserts of Namibia, all the way down to the forests of the Tsitsikamma to go and speak to people. And what I found will blow you guys away. Not just do our people use mushrooms, but they revere them, they worship them, they're used in initiation and ceremonial purposes, they're used for medicine. They, in some cases, are even revered as deities. And I want you guys to take a journey with me. Who's excited? You guys ready to see my research? So as you can see, I've traveled all around. I've found some amazing medicinal and therapeutic uses. I'm going to cover this very quickly. We've got things like Guadalumpene, which is the Peziza mushroom. This is a dye ball, and this is used for acne, for bacterial infections on the skin. You want to know what the science says about this? When they test it in China and America, it's phenomenal antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial. Our people know this, and they've known it for hundreds of years. Same with the reishi, spindi mushroom. This mushroom is used for all sorts of maladies, from immunological support to anxiety to depression. And do you know what the leading studies all around the world, billions and billions of dollars, are pumped into this mushroom for? Immunological support, cancer treatments, anxiety and depression. And our people have known this for hundreds of years, and no one has documented this. Baffles me. It's very strange. You guys don't mind if I just quickly cover this. We've also got entheogenic use. We've got mushrooms used for more spiritualistic reasons, hanging them up as charms or grinding them up and sprinkling them around the house to keep bad spirits or omens at bay. We've got mushrooms that are used to induce trance-like states. We've even got a mushroom that I discovered for the first time in Lesotho. It's the first psychoactive mushroom to be discovered in Southern Africa in 30 years. And me and my team have written a paper on it. We've given it an indigenous name, just so that everyone is happy about that, which I think is great. And this mushroom is used very similar, not this one. It's this one over here. This one right over here in my hands. I was so happy when I found it. Now, this mushroom is used very similar to ayahuasca in South America in order to induce trance-like states. Now, sorry guys, just give me 2 seconds. Now, we've even got mushrooms that are used to ward off enemies, or to bring money back, or to help with, yeah, everything, whatever you can think of, it's being used. You want that? I also want that one as well, please. We've even got mushrooms, fungi that are used as arrow poisons. We've got things that are used to help with burn wounds. It's extensive. It is so far-reaching, and no one has written about it. So when I set out on this project, I realized that this history is so far-reaching and so ingrained in the culture that I thought this must be way more ancient than is currently spoken about. And I thought to myself, you know, our people are amazing, wise healers, but none of them were writing people. They didn't document it in written language. But I thought to myself, how can I find information? And I stumbled upon the idea that our people were painting people. This is how they documented their knowledge. So I set out, and I Googled, and I contacted the universities, because I work with Stellenbosch and Free State University. And I contacted them and asked them, like, is there anything, guys? Is there anything? time and time again, there's absolutely no information. And the professors that studied the rock art would say to me, our people don't use mushrooms, they don't depict them. And I was like, bullshit, I know that's lie. And I said to them, are you sure about that? And they said, you're more than welcome to go and look. So I got access to the rock archives of the Witwatersrand University, and I sifted through about 200,000 images twice. It took me a very long time. And I'm just going to let you guys see. You guys tell me what you guys think. Keep in mind that the depictions and the titles will say Sangoma holding unidentified object. So I started out and I wanted to try and see if I could find just normal depictions of a stipe with a cap. And I started to find things like this with a stipe and a cap, and a stipe and a cap, and a stipe and a cap, and a stipe and a cap. And I thought to myself, this is so interesting. This looks like a mushroom to me, but maybe I'm a bit biased because I like fungi, I like mushrooms. And I knew that this wouldn't fly if I was going to write a paper or a book. I needed hard-hitting evidence. If you're in the academic world, you know this. You need hard evidence. So I was like, this isn't going to fly. I need more. So I set out, can I find people picking mushrooms? Because then if they're growing out of the ground, it has to be a mushroom, right? So I found this guy bending down to a stipe and a cap. And I found this guy with a stipe and a cap, and that side with a stipe and a cap. A stipe and a cap. But still, this wouldn't work. This wouldn't do. So I wanted to try and see, are there actual depictions, maybe even engravings, to get away from maybe the paint smudged or something. Maybe there was an engraving. And guys, there's so much. Like, I'm like, how did no one stumble upon this? Look at this. Tell me what this looks like. This is a stipe and a cap. And we've got on this side over here, I'm going to come to this side. We've got on this side over here a stipe and a cap. And check this out. We've even got depictions of fungi coming from cattle. Now, if you know anything about psychoactive fungi, you know that they grow off of cattle manure. So I was like, okay, I'm going to need a little bit more. Can I find them growing out of cattle? So I started to find cattle, and I started to find people pointing at the cattle. And when they point at the cattle, you can also find dung, which is usually depicted as a circle, with things coming out of the top. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Because you find dung that doesn't have anything coming out, and then dung with things coming out of the top. And I'm like, this must be mushrooms, guys. How has no one seen this? So I wanted to take it a little bit further. Has anyone ever heard of Graham Hancock? Graham Hancock? Yeah, we got one Graham Hancock fan. Okay, so Graham Hancock is an amazing journalist, author, a phenomenal scientist. He's received a lot of bad publicity. In one of his books, he wrote, it's called Supernatural, he wrote about the fact that our ancient hunter-gatherers would often depict in the rock art people entering trance-like states. Now, the common understanding in the academic field is that these trance-like states would be induced by ecstatic dance, but the hypothesis is that perhaps there's psychoactive plants or even psychoactive fungi that are involved in this, but there's no hard-hitting evidence. Now, often you would find these sangomas or shamans carrying bags. You can see them in Egypt and Mesopotamia and South America and all over the world, and these bags are often depicted, and they're known as medicine bags. So I said, okay, this is very cool. And with my luck, I have the best luck, I don't know why. Maybe I can try and find a medicine bag with some mushrooms on it. So I found this over here. It's a little bit, the quality is quite bad because of the projection. But you can see this medicine bag here, and at the top we've got these things coming out, and we've got a man over there with a medicine bag, and he's holding something in his hands. But again, this wouldn't fly if I was going to go to the university. I needed something concrete. So I set out to find these people entering trance-like states. Now, when they would enter these states, they're called therianthropes, which is a hybrid person, a mix between a man and an animal. Like you can see an elephant man and a lion man, and these would be people accessing the spirit world. So I needed to see if I could find a therianthrope that involved some depiction of fungi, and I found this, guys. I found a man exalting a fungus over here, holding it above his head with a stipe and a cap. And then I found this guy over here. He's transforming into a crocodile over here. It's called the crocodile people of Zimbabwe. And as he transforms into a full crocodile, we see a stipe and a cap, and the stipe is going past his hand, which shows that he's holding something. Now, what does that look like to you guys? looks like a mushroom, right? Come on, am I biased? I don't know. Anyways, it's just a hypothesis, guys. So I needed a little bit more again. So I started to look for more therianthropes, and I found these people over here that are sitting down, and they're accessing another transcendental experience because they're flying off. They're believed to be flying off into another state. And in their hands, we see a stipe and a concave cap, and a man with an open mouth putting something into his mouth. Now, nowhere else do we see images of this with a stipe and a cap formed like that. We see this man over here putting something into his mouth as well, and someone picking something down here, and this man holding something and putting it into his mouth. So I thought, okay, this is cool. This is very cool. Can I push it just a little bit more? Could, in fact, our people be telling us about a history of not just use, but also of worship or dedication? And I thought the only known mushroom mythology in Southern Africa is in the Kalahari. Our Khoisan Bushmen are known to eat a Kalahari truffle. They call it ngaba. And this ngaba is laid by a thunderbird that flies and brings the rains. And when he comes, he brings the rains and lays his eggs. So we know mythology is already centered around there. We know that they know about mushrooms. So I went back and I went and spoke to some of them. And I found that one of their supreme deities is believed to be formed out of something called a formling, which is usually depicted as a white circle. And this formling often has little insects crawling inside of it. And this formling is a termite mound. Now, if you're a mycologist like me, you get tickled there, because a termite mound is very interesting, because out of a termite mound grows a fungus, a very meaty, big mushroom called termitomyces. Now, I found this woman over here. We know she's a woman because of her bum. And she's bending down towards this formling. I'm like 2 minutes. She's bending down towards this formling, and out of the top of the formling, we see this stipe and a concave cap. I want you guys to remember this concave cap. You see that there? So I found this termitomyces mushroom. This is what they look like. They've got this long stem with this black at the bottom that goes into the termite mound, and a concave cap on the right-hand side there. When they haven't concaved out, they are rounded like this. I want you guys to remember that. So I tried to find some other depictions, and I found these bulbous stems, and I found these other formlings with these things going down, but they weren't good enough for me. I wanted something much better, and I found this. Now, this is one of the most sacred rock arts in Brandberg in Namibia. It's called the white sangoma, and it's the sangoma painted in white, and it depicts village life and what is most important. So we can see cattle, we can see hunting, we can see the sangoma, and just off to the right of the sangoma, we see this man over here holding something in his hands. Sorry, guys. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. Sorry, back 2 more. There we go. So we see him holding something in his hands. So I looked a little bit closer, and I found that what he was holding was a bulbous stem with this black part and a cap that hasn't branched out yet. And to me, that looks exactly like termitomyces. Now, why on earth would our ancestors depict the mushroom if it wasn't important to them, if it wasn't a deity of some sort? Because if I was a hunter-gatherer, I would worship 2 things. I would worship something that alters my states of consciousness, and I would worship something that feeds my family. That is what's important. This mushroom and mushrooms like it are revered in Southern Africa, and we know nothing about it. We've just lost it. So that has been my research. I want to leave you guys with one more. This is another depiction from Limpopo. This is another village life, harvesting cattle, village life, the sangoma, and right at the top is a deity laying on his back called the sable. And out of the sable's hand, we see something twisting up, and right at the top of it, we see this cap. And I wonder to myself, why on earth would they depict that right at the top of a village life if it didn't provide some sort of security or altered states of consciousness? So because of that, I've been writing a book called Mushroom Muti for the last 5 years. It's pretty far along. There's also a lot of stuff that I've left out, tons and tons and tons. It's going to be about 2 years before it's done. But if you guys want to help me, please point me in the right direction. If you know Sangomas or you know Nyangas or you know of medicine markets and you want to join me at a medicine market, please reach out to me. My stand is number 44 on that side. Also, come tomorrow. I'm doing a talk on mushrooms and actually why they're cool and the chemicals and all of that stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.